The Truth About Frogs. Brian Tracy starts the book with a simple but powerful idea. If you had to eat a live frog every morning, you'd do it right away, because nothing worse could happen to you that day. The frog is a metaphor for your biggest, most important, and most unpleasant task, the one you tend to avoid but that can change your results the most once completed. In my own life, I've seen this clearly. When I worked in sales, I often delayed calling the toughest client, the one who always challenged my pitch. I'd waste hours answering emails or organizing my desk, telling myself I was getting ready. But deep down, I knew that one call could move the deal forward more than anything else. The days I forced myself to eat that frog first, to make that call, were the most productive. Everything else afterward felt easy. Start your day with the task you least want to do but that matters most. Eat your frog early and you'll build momentum, confidence, and clarity for the rest of the day. Set the table. Brian Tracy says that clarity is the starting point of success. Before you can act efficiently, you must know exactly what you want. Most people jump into work without a clear destination and end up wasting effort on the wrong things. He suggests writing down your goals, defining them clearly, and setting deadlines. When you can see your goals on paper, they stop being vague wishes and become specific targets. In my own life, I learned this the hard way. A few years ago, I told myself I wanted to grow in my career. That sounded great, but it meant nothing in practice. I jumped from one project to another, accepted extra work, and stayed busy all the time, yet I didn't move forward. One evening, I sat down and actually wrote what growth meant to me. Get promoted to senior sales manager within 12 months, increase revenue by 30%, and improve presentation skills. Suddenly, every task had direction. Within 9 months, I achieved that promotion. Define your goals, write them down, and make them measurable. If you don't set the table properly, you'll end up serving the wrong meal. Plan every day in advance. Brian Tracy teaches that every minute spent planning saves 10 minutes in execution. Tracy recommends writing your to-do list the night before. When you wake up, you already know what matters most. When I first started in sales, I used to come to the office and just see what happens. I'd answer emails, chat with colleagues, and start working on random tasks. By the end of the day, I was exhausted, but unsure if I'd achieved anything meaningful. Then I began planning each evening. I'd list 5 key things I needed to do the next day, starting with the most important one. The difference was dramatic. I woke up with purpose, tackled the hardest task first, and often finished everything earlier than expected. Don't start your day until it's already planned on paper. A written plan turns chaos into structure and transforms busy days into productive ones. Apply the 80-20 rule to everything. Brian Tracy introduces the Pareto principle. 20% of your activities produce 80% of your results. Not everything you do matters equally. Some actions create massive impact, while most have only a small effect. The key is to identify your vital few and focus your energy there. When I started in sales, I treated every client the same way, spending hours on small accounts that barely made profit while postponing calls with the big clients who could change my entire month. One afternoon, I analyzed my client list and realized something shocking. Only about 20% of my clients brought in nearly 80% of my total revenue. From that moment, I shifted my focus. Within 2 months, my sales doubled, even though I was technically working less. Ask yourself daily, is this task part of the vital 20% or just background noise? Once you identify and commit to your top priorities, your productivity will skyrocket while your wasted time disappears. Consider the consequences. Brian Tracy explains that long-term thinking separates high performers from everyone else. Every decision has consequences, some immediate, some delayed. Successful people focus on tasks that have the greatest positive impact on their future, not just quick satisfaction. Here's the neuroscience behind it. When we choose easy tasks, our brain releases dopamine, a quick reward. But this same mechanism keeps us trapped in short-term thinking. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for long-term planning, requires more energy to activate. That's why difficult, important tasks feel harder to start. Before doing anything, ask yourself, what are the potential consequences of this action? I had two choices every day. Spend time answering small client requests, which gave me quick wins and instant praise, or dedicate hours to developing a new sales strategy, something uncertain, harder, and with no immediate reward. I kept choosing the easy path until my sales barely moved. So I started dedicating my mornings to strategic planning, even though it didn't bring instant results. 3 months later, that plan raised our team's revenue by over 40%. Always think in terms of consequences. Ask yourself, what will matter most a year from now? Practice creative procrastination. Brian Tracy reminds us that you can't do everything, and that's okay. The secret is not to eliminate procrastination, but to use it wisely. Everyone procrastinates on something. Successful people just choose to procrastinate on low-value tasks. I used to procrastinate on the wrong things. I'd delay calling new prospects because they required focus and confidence. Meanwhile, I'd stay busy answering emails, checking spreadsheets, or rearranging my calendar. One day I realized I was using busyness as a hiding place. So I made a list of my top priorities and asked, what can I safely ignore or delay? I decided to stop answering emails before noon, ignore minor client requests until after I finished key calls, and skip internal meetings that didn't require my input. The result? My performance improved instantly. I was finally procrastinating on the right things. Let go of low-value activities and consciously choose where your attention goes. If you must procrastinate, and we all do, make sure it's on the tasks that have the smallest impact on your goals.
Use the ABCDE method continually. Brian Tracy introduces a simple prioritization system, the ABCDE method. A. Must do. Serious consequences if not completed. B. Should do. Important but not critical. C. Nice to do. No consequences either way. D. Delegate. Someone else can do this. E. Eliminate. Tasks that add no value at all. The key is to focus relentlessly on your A tasks before touching anything else. I used to treat all tasks equally. I'd open my inbox in the morning and just start working down the list. Emails from clients, internal updates, system notifications, everything seemed urgent. Then I discovered the ABCDE method. One night, I wrote my tasks for the next day and labeled them using this system. The next morning, I went straight for my A, a client pitch I'd been postponing. By lunchtime, I'd closed the deal that had been hanging for weeks. Discipline yourself to focus on your A before everything else. When you live by the ABCDE method, you stop reacting to your day and start directing it. Focus on key result areas. Brian Tracy says that every job has a few key result areas, or KRAs, the critical parts that determine most of your success. He compares it to a chain. It's only as strong as its weakest link. The goal is to identify your KRAs and constantly strengthen them. To find your own, ask, what are the few things I do that contribute the most to my results? And where would poor performance hurt me the most? I was constantly busy, attending meetings, preparing reports, responding to messages. Everything seemed urgent. Then I discovered the ABCDE method. One night, I wrote my tasks for the next day and labeled them using this system. The next morning, I went straight for my A, a quiet pitch I'd been postponing. By lunchtime, I'd closed the deal that had been hanging for weeks. Discipline yourself to focus on your A before everything else. When you live by the ABCDE method, you stop reacting to your day and start directing it. Focus on key result areas. Brian Tracy says that every job has a few key result areas, the critical parts that determine most of your success. He compares it to a chain. It's only as strong as its weakest link. The goal is to identify your KRAs and constantly strengthen them. To find your own, ask, what are the few things I do that contribute the most to my results? And where would poor performance hurt me the most? I was constantly busy, attending meetings, preparing reports, responding to messages. Everything seemed urgent. Then I discovered the ABCDE method. One night, I wrote my tasks for the next day and labeled them using this system. The next morning, I went straight for my A, a client pitch I'd been postponing. By lunchtime, I'd closed the deal that had been hanging for weeks. Discipline yourself to focus on your A before everything else. When you live by the ABCDE method, you stop reacting to your day and start directing it. Apply the law of 3. Brian Tracy explains that in every job, there are usually only 3 core tasks that account for 90% of your contribution. These are the big 3, the activities that truly define your value and results. Ask yourself, if I could do only 3 things all day long, what would contribute the most to my goals? When I first started managing clients, I believed success meant juggling everything, answering messages instantly, preparing endless reports, and attending every meeting. I was exhausted and always behind. One weekend, I asked myself that question and wrote down 1. Building relationships with key clients. 2. Finding new leads consistently. 3. Closing deals confidently. Everything else was noise. Once I focused on mastering these 3 things every day, my productivity and income skyrocketed. Identify your key 3 and give them most of your attention every day. When you concentrate on the few activities that create the biggest results, you'll work less, achieve more, and finally feel in control. Prepare thoroughly before you begin. Brian Tracy emphasizes that preparation is the foundation of high performance. One of the biggest reasons people procrastinate is because they don't feel ready. They lack clarity, resources, or confidence. Before starting any major task, gather everything you'll need and set up your workspace so that you can begin immediately. Preparation removes friction and builds momentum. Early in my sales career, I often walked into client meetings half prepared. I'd skim the product details, glance at the client file, and trust my instincts. Sometimes it worked, but often I'd stumble. After losing a major deal, my manager told me, "You didn't lose because you weren't capable. You lost because you weren't prepared." From that day on, I changed. Before every meeting, I researched the client thoroughly, reviewed their past orders, and practiced answers to possible objections. My confidence grew, and so did my success rate. Preparation builds confidence, and confidence drives action. The few minutes you spend preparing can save you hours of mistakes and lost opportunities. Take it one oil barrel at a time. Brian Tracy shares a simple but profound idea. You can tackle any big goal if you break it down into small, clear steps. He tells the story of a long desert journey where travelers survived by following a trail of oil barrels spaced evenly apart. They didn't have to see the end of the desert, they only had to reach the next barrel. When I first decided to double my yearly sales, the target felt impossible. I'd stare at the number and think, how on earth am I going to get there? Then I remembered this concept. So instead of focusing on the annual number, I broke it down into monthly, then weekly goals. Suddenly, it became manageable. I told myself, just close this week's deals. Just contact 5 new leads today. By the end of the year, not only had I reached my goal, I had exceeded it. Focus on small, consistent actions, your next oil barrel. When you commit to steady progress instead of perfection, even the longest journey becomes possible. Upgrade your key skills. Brian Tracy reminds us that continuous learning is the ultimate productivity tool. You can't do more with less time unless you become better at what you do. The faster and more skillfully you perform your key tasks, the more valuable you become. He often says, you can learn anything you need to learn to achieve any goal you set for yourself. As a sales manager, I can handle one-on-one conversations easily, but the moment I had to present to a group, my confidence dropped. I'd rush through slides, forget key points, and feel tense the entire time. After a particularly weak presentation, I decided enough was enough. I joined a local speaking workshop, watched online lectures, and practiced short talks in front of my wife every evening. Within a few months, I was leading team presentations and even enjoying them. That single skill opened new doors in my career. Identify the skills that have the biggest impact on your success and commit to mastering them. A few hours of focused learning each week can completely change your trajectory.
Leverage your special talents. Brian Tracy explains that everyone has unique talents, things they naturally do better than most people. The problem is, many people never stop long enough to identify those strengths. They spend their lives trying to fix weaknesses instead of amplifying what they're already great at. Ask yourself, what is it that I do easily that others find difficult? Early in my career, I tried to become the perfect all-around employee. I thought being versatile made me valuable, but it only left me drained and unfocused. During a performance review, my supervisor said, "You're good at many things, but you come alive when you talk to clients." That sentence hit me hard. I realized my true strength wasn't in paperwork or processes, it was in connecting with people. So I doubled down on that. Within a year, I became one of the top sales performers in our team. Don't try to be good at everything. Focus on being exceptional at what you're naturally gifted in. When you align your time and energy with your special talents, success becomes a natural extension of who you are. Identify your key constraints. Brian Tracy teaches that every goal has a bottleneck, one key constraint that limits progress. The faster you identify and remove that constraint, the faster you move towards success. He calls it the choke point of performance. A few years ago, I was managing a team with great products, strong leads, and an energetic crew, yet our numbers kept falling short. At first, I blamed the market, then the pricing, then the team's motivation. One evening, I decided to break everything down. And there it was. Our biggest bottleneck wasn't in marketing or motivation, it was in follow-up speed. We were losing deals simply because we took too long to respond. So I made one small change. Every new lead had to be contacted within 30 minutes. Within a month, our close rate jumped by 25%. There's always one limiting factor that holds you back. Sometimes it's external, lack of resources, unclear goals, outdated tools. But often it's internal, lack of discipline, procrastination, fear, or perfectionism. Ask yourself regularly, what is the one factor that, if I improved it, would make the biggest difference right now? When you find that constraint and fix it, you unlock momentum. Put the pressure on yourself. Brian Tracy says, if you want to be successful, you must learn to motivate yourself. You must put the pressure on yourself because no one else will. The people who achieve the most aren't waiting for someone to push them. They become their own source of drive. A few years ago, our company was preparing for a major trade show. I was responsible for our booth, materials, and pitch deck. But I've been procrastinating, assuming there was still plenty of time. 2 weeks before the event, my manager suddenly fell ill, and the responsibility landed squarely on me. For a moment, I panicked. Then something switched inside me. I realized this was my chance to prove what I was capable of, not to my boss, but to myself. From that day, I worked differently. I woke up earlier, made detailed checklists, rehearsed my pitch every night. The internal pressure did it for me. When the event came, we attracted more clients than any other team. For the first time, I felt the quiet satisfaction of self-driven success. If you only work hard when someone's watching, you'll always stay dependent on others for progress. True professionals learn to set their own standards higher than anyone else would. Ask yourself daily, if I were my own boss, would I be satisfied with my performance today? There's a quiet kind of pride that comes from pushing yourself, not out of fear, but out of self-respect. Maximize your personal powers. Brian Tracy reminds us that success is not just about working hard. It's about working in alignment with your energy, health, and natural rhythm. He says, your body is like a machine. If you take care of it, it will take care of you. A few years ago, I went through a period of relentless hustle. I was managing sales, building reports late at night, replying to clients on weekends. From the outside, I looked productive, but slowly I noticed the cracks. My focus started slipping. Small mistakes crept into my work. Even my mood became short-tempered and anxious. One morning, after only 3 hours of sleep, I sat in my car outside the office and realized I was running on fumes. That day, I promised myself a different approach. I began prioritizing rest and physical energy with the same seriousness I once gave to deadlines. I started running again, eating better, setting cutoff times for work. At first, it felt strange, like slowing down meant falling behind. But within weeks, my clarity returned. I worked fewer hours, but produced better results. You can't do great work with a tired mind and an overworked body. Your physical energy is the foundation for all your mental strength, creativity, and focus. That means sleep well, protect it like an appointment with success. Eat clean. What you put in your body determines what you get out of it. Move daily. Physical movement clears the mind faster than motivation videos ever will. Rest deliberately. Recovery is not laziness, it's strategy. The most productive people aren't the ones who burn out fastest. They're the ones who manage energy, not just time. Success is not about squeezing more hours into your day. It's about showing up at your best when it matters most. Motivate yourself to action. Brian Tracy says, no one is coming to save you. You are responsible for your own motivation. Most people wait for inspiration before acting, as if motivation is a spark that appears magically. But in truth, it's the other way around. Action creates motivation. I remember one winter when I hit a strange slump. Work was fine. Family was good. But I felt stuck. Every day looked the same. My drive was gone. At first, I told myself I was just tired and needed a break. But the truth was deeper. I'd lost touch with my why. One evening, I came across a quote by Tracy, "Become your own cheerleader." It hit me. I'd been expecting motivation to arrive from somewhere else instead of generating it myself. So I decided to take one small action that night. I wrote down 3 things I was proud of from the last year, and 3 things I wanted to achieve in the next 6 months. It wasn't a miracle, but something shifted. I remembered the feeling of progress. The next day, I made one smaller move. I followed up with an old client. Then I cleaned my workspace. Then I wrote out a plan for the week. Within a few days, that dull fog lifted. I didn't find motivation. I built it, step by step, through movement. If you wait to feel ready, you'll never start. Tracy recommends 3 ways to fuel your inner drive. 1. Talk to yourself positively. Your internal dialogue defines your energy. Say things like, "I can do this," or "Let's get started." 2. Feed your mind with inspiration. Read success stories. Watch people who achieve what you admire. Energy is contagious. And 3. Take the first step, no matter how small. Starting creates movement, and movement beats hesitation every time. Every time you push yourself to act when you don't feel like it, you strengthen self-motivation. You stop being dependent on moods, on perfect timing, on ideal circumstances. Because the truth is, motivation doesn't come before action. It follows it. Always.
Escape the technological time sinks. Brian Tracy calls technology both a blessing and a trap. He says, technology makes it easier than ever to waste time and harder than ever to focus. We live in a world of constant pings and endless scrolls. Every beep promises importance, but most deliver distraction. The danger isn't just losing minutes, it's losing momentum. A few years ago, I was in the habit of checking my phone constantly. One morning, I decided to track my screen time. The result shocked me. Over 4 hours a day. 4 hours, not building anything, not learning, not growing, just reacting. That night, I sat on the couch scrolling mindlessly again when my wife asked gently, "When was the last time you read a book just for yourself?" Her words landed like a quiet challenge. So I made a change. I deleted social media from my phone for 1 week. The first 2 days were uncomfortable, but by day 3, something unexpected happened. I felt peaceful. My thoughts slowed down. I started sleeping better. That single week turned into a month, and in that month, I completed an online course I'd been postponing for a year, read 2 books, and even started journaling again. Technology is a tool, but if you don't control it, it will control you. Tracy's advice is simple but transformative. Turn off all non-essential notifications. Check email and messages at specific times, not all day long. Use technology intentionally, not habitually. Ask yourself before every click, is this helping me reach my goals or just distracting me from them? We often talk about not having enough time, but the truth is, most of us don't have enough attention. Attention is the new currency of success, and most people are spending it on noise. When you reclaim your focus, you reclaim hours of your life. You think deeper. You finish what you start. Technology will always be there. The question is whether it serves you or steals from you. Break the task into pieces. Brian Tracy reminds us that no mountain is too high if you climb it step by step. He says, any big task properly divided into small pieces becomes immediately manageable and far less intimidating. The problem isn't usually that a task is too hard, it's that it feels too big. I learned this lesson during one of the most demanding projects of my career. Our company had just launched a new product line, and I was responsible for developing the entire sales strategy, market research, pricing, presentations, partner outreach, everything. The deadline? 3 weeks. The task? Massive. For 2 days, I just stared at my laptop paralyzed. Every time I tried to start, my thoughts scattered. The project seemed like a giant wall I couldn't climb. Then I remembered a simple rule from Tracy's book. How do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. So I opened a blank page and divided the project into clear, small steps. 1. Research the market. 2. Define the target customer. 3. Write the pricing model. 4. Create the presentation. 5. Prepare the launch plan. Each point felt like something I could actually do. I made a rule for myself. No multitasking. 1 small part at a time. Once I started, momentum built naturally. By the end of the 3 weeks, not only was the project finished on time, but it became one of the most successful campaigns of the year. When you break a big task into smaller pieces, you give your mind clarity and direction. Tracy suggests you write down every part of a large project before starting. Focus on the first step only. Celebrate small wins. The goal isn't to finish everything at once, it's to make starting easy and continuing inevitable. Big goals don't require superhuman strength, just daily commitment. So don't stare at the mountain, just take the next step. Creating large fragments of time. Brian Tracy emphasizes that productivity isn't about working faster, it's about protecting your most valuable hours. He writes, your ability to carve out large chunks of uninterrupted time is the key to getting important work done. Most people don't lack time, they lack concentrated time. Deep, meaningful work requires long, unbroken stretches of focus. You can't write a strategic document in 10-minute intervals. You can't solve complex problems while constantly switching between tabs. I realized this during a critical phase of our business expansion. We were preparing to enter a new market, and I had to develop a comprehensive entry strategy. It required research, analysis, financial modeling, and creative thinking, the kind of work that demands total immersion. But every day looked the same. Meetings at 9, calls at 11, lunch discussions, afternoon emails, quick check-ins. By evening, I was exhausted, but hadn't touched the strategy at all. I kept telling myself I'd find time, but time doesn't get found, it gets created. So I made a radical decision. I blocked out 3 full mornings per week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., and marked them as unavailable in my calendar. No meetings, no calls, no exceptions. My team thought I was joking. What if something urgent comes up, they asked. Then it will wait 4 hours, I answered. The first morning felt strange, almost guilty, but nothing burned. Instead, something remarkable happened. I worked. Not the frantic, scattered kind of work, the deep kind. The kind where you lose track of time because you're actually thinking, not just reacting. In those 4 hours, I made more meaningful progress than I had in 2 weeks of busy days. Tracy points out that most people overestimate what they can accomplish in an hour and underestimate what they can achieve in 4 hours uninterrupted. When you create space for deep work, you stop being busy and start being effective. You stop reacting and start creating. Most urgent things can wait. Most interruptions aren't emergencies. Most noise is just noise. What can't wait is the work that moves your life forward. The strategy, the writing, the thinking, the building. So this week, look at your calendar. Find one morning, just one, and block it off completely. 4 hours, no meetings, no distractions, and then protect it like your future depends on it, because it does.
Develop a sense of urgency. Brian Tracy says that successful people move fast. He writes, "Do not wait. The time will never be just right. Start where you stand, work with whatever tools you may have at your command, and better tools will be found as you go along." Urgency isn't about panic, it's about momentum. Most people wait. They wait for perfect conditions, more information, the right moment, complete certainty. But while they're waiting, others are moving and winning. I used to be a chronic planner. One time, I spent 3 months preparing to launch a new service. I refined the concept, rewrote the presentation, waited for the ideal market conditions. By the time I finally launched, 2 competitors had already captured the market. My plan was perfect. My timing was terrible. That failure taught me something crucial. Action creates clarity that thinking cannot. You don't need to see the entire staircase. You just need to take the first step. Tracy suggests building urgency through these habits. Move quickly on decisions. When you know what needs to be done, do it now. Create self-imposed deadlines. Set your own finish lines and treat them seriously. Develop a bias for action. When facing a choice between planning more or starting now, choose starting. Work at a faster tempo. Your physical pace influences your mental pace. I started applying this immediately. When I get an important email, I respond within an hour. When I identify a problem, I address it that day. When I have an idea, I test it quickly. This shift changed everything. Urgency became my competitive advantage. While others were still discussing, I was already learning from real results. The most successful people I know all share this trait. They act fast, not recklessly, but decisively. Here's the paradox. When you develop urgency, you actually create more time because you stop wasting days overthinking. You stop losing weeks to indecision. You stop letting opportunities expire while you're getting ready. Tracy puts it simply, there is never enough time to do everything, but there is always enough time to do the most important thing. So ask yourself, what's the one action you've been postponing? Do it today. Not perfectly, not completely. Just start, because the right time is now. Single-handle every task. Brian Tracy teaches that starting and stopping is where productivity dies. He writes, once you begin, keep working at the task until it is 100% complete. Don't put it down, don't do something else, don't check email, just finish. The principle is simple. When you touch a task, finish it. Every interruption has a cost, not just the time you lose, but the mental energy required to restart. Your brain needs 15 to 20 minutes to return to deep focus after each interruption. I noticed this pattern during a quarterly report I was preparing. I work on it for 30 minutes, then answer an email. return for 20 minutes, then take a call. After 3 days, the report still wasn't done, and it was messy, inconsistent, full of gaps. Then I tried Tracy's approach. I blocked 2 hours, closed everything else, and made one rule: don't stop until it's finished. I completed it in 90 minutes, and the quality was noticeably better because my thinking stayed coherent throughout. Tracy's advice is clear. Pick up a task only when you're ready to finish it. Resist the urge to multitask. Your brain doesn't multitask. It switches rapidly, losing efficiency with each switch. Build the habit of completion. This doesn't mean every task must be done in one session. Large projects naturally require multiple sessions, but within each session, the rule holds: single-handle your work. The momentum of continuous work carries you forward. Each completed sentence makes the next one easier. But when you stop and restart, you lose that momentum. You have to rebuild context, remember where you were, figure out what comes next. Starting is hard. Restarting is harder. Tracy reminds us, perhaps the greatest single word in success is focus. So today, pick one task. One that matters. Set aside the time it needs, and don't put it down until it's done. Conclusion: eat that frog. Brian Tracy's message is deceptively simple. Do the hardest thing first every day without fail. This entire philosophy boils down to one core truth. Success is built on daily discipline, not occasional heroics. You don't transform your life with one big decision. You transform it with small, repeated choices made consistently over time. The frog you avoid is the frog that controls you. That difficult conversation, that strategic project, that skill you need to develop, that decision you keep postponing. As long as you avoid it, it drains your energy. It sits in the back of your mind, creating anxiety, stealing focus, making everything else feel heavier. But when you face it first, when you eat that frog at the start of your day, everything changes. You feel lighter, stronger, in control. The rest of your day flows easier because the hardest part is already done. I've seen this principle transform not just my productivity, but my entire approach to work and life. Before discovering Tracy's book, I was busy but not effective. I worked long hours but avoided hard tasks. I felt constantly overwhelmed. Now, my mornings have a clear structure. I identify my frog the night before. When I start working, that frog comes first. Nothing else gets my attention until it's done. Some days the frog is a difficult email. Other days it's a complex analysis or a strategic decision. But whatever it is, I eat it first. This single habit has done more for my career than any course, tool, or technique. Tracy's final lesson is this: your future is created by what you do today, not what you plan to do, not what you hope to do, what you actually do. Every frog you eat builds momentum. Every priority you tackle strengthens your discipline. Every hard task you complete proves to yourself that you're capable. Success isn't complicated, it's just consistent. So tomorrow morning, before checking email, before meetings, before distractions, ask yourself one question: what is my frog today? Then eat it. Do this every day and watch your life change. Not someday, not eventually, starting now.